The following is a long, open-ended conversation with Kolawole Adegoke, an experienced financial professional, a CFA holder, who has been collaborating in the Global Findex project of the Alliance for Financial Inclusion. It was insightful to learn how Lagos is so different, how Nigeria has been, and still is, a hub for finance and shipping, and how the world would be so different if brand inclusion for sports were as effective as the current efforts for financial inclusion around the globe. This is On the Long with FVR podcast. If you like this thing, please like and subscribe or feel free to contribute in the description below. And now, your featured presentation. 3, 2, 1. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another episode of On the Long with FVR. Today we have Kolawole. Thanks for doing this, man.
Thank you, Fabian, for doing this. It's been a long one.
Oh yeah, today we have a special moment to share because we just have to finish one course of Mandarin, right?
Yes, and it was very interesting.
Yeah. So one of our friends, Ye Chiao, she has been very gracious to teach us a little of Chinese, and has been very good at this moment. And so far, it's like right now we are learning some stuff, which is good, especially in this summer. But long story short, right now we want to hear from you because we want to learn about your story. So first and foremost, where are you from?
Oh, thank you very much once again. Like you said, it's been very great learning Mandarin. That's part of the benefits you have when you school at a school as multicultural, multi-diverse, and multiracial as ASB. It's been very fantastic. So I'm from Nigeria, Lagos specifically. And that's we are currently schooling at ASB now.
That's right. And before you coming here, you were doing something in particular, like in financial services, right?
Yes, thank you very much. Yes, I was in science. I'm a mixed origin. I was in science, but I was also in finance. So I work at the treasury department for the past 12 years altogether. So at the First Bank of Nigeria, which is one of the largest bank, and it's a global bank, of course. So
Wow.
that's it. So I was at the derivative desk, where you talk of swaps, forwards, bonds, treasury bills, and all that. So that's what I was doing before I joined the Asia Club business.
And Nigeria is very big, but Lagos itself is big.
Yeah.
So something that people cannot understand very well is that there are differences between a country, between the cities. So I need to ask you, how different is Lagos?
Oh, thank you so much. I think that's a very interesting topic. Nigeria itself is large, at least roughly now, last census, around 200 million people. But Lagos itself is a city, so about one of the biggest city. If you want to compare relatively, Malaysia is a population of 35 million, give or take, just approximately. Lagos is more than 22 million people in the same city.
22 in one
22
city.
million people in one
Wow.
small city. And it's an island. Most people don't know that.
What?
It's a Lagos island. It's not. So we have Nigeria is separated into two. So it's an island like Batu Batu. So it's a small piece of land with a lot of economic activities and people.
I didn't know it was an island.
It's an island. It's a Lagos island.
Wow. And how is the commuting? How is the environment? How is the...
So it's divided into two, really. So there is the highland and there is the mainland. So there is a link between the island and the mainland. So the link, we have a popular, one of the longest bridge over water in the world. It's called Third Mainland Bridge. So it links the island to the mainland, and that's it. So the economic activities and the political power, judiciary resides on the highland.
And I can also believe that most of the systems can be a little fragile as long as that bridge works, right?
That's one important thing, and you are already getting into the life of Lagosians now. Anything happens on the Third Mainland Bridge, you may not get to your office, you may not get to where you are going because traffic is going to spread across all of that areas. So it's important. That bridge is very important. Rumor has it that the government are trying to build a fourth mainland bridge to ease the means of transportation and the livelihood of the people in Lagos.
Wow, that's fascinating because being such a big city, with so many things going on, only not only direct but indirect consequences for the economy. It's like everything is together on that single bridge.
Yeah, sorry, you said it correctly because the ship, the cargoes come in, the flight, everything has to be linked to that particular bridge. So it's important.
Wow. And you were there in the Nigeria Bank.
Yes, because the headquarters, of course, have to be at the island. So I have to work there. Most of the bank's headquarters are on the island. So specifically, my headquarters was at Marina. So Marina Bank. So most is a popular place. So you have all the banks line up like the New York. So you have.
I can see that. It's like one shore, the financial shore, is like in the New York. You see all the lower Manhattan. You see all of the banks and everything.
Exactly. So immediately you say Marina, Lagos, we all know that's bank. So you have 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30. So I work at 35 Marina, so which is where First Bank. So each of those addresses are bank addresses.
So there are at least 35 banks.
25.
Okay, 25. Wow.
No, up to
Such a
30.
financial hub.
It's the financial hub. And then our First Bank is the first bank in Nigeria in the entire of West Africa.
Oh.
So it's a very systemically important bank with a large.
So with that hub, how are the relations of Lagos with other cities, and also how are the relations with the other banking partners across the region and across the continent?
Oh, yes, and that's it. The relationship, if I take it locally, is very important. Lagos is the hub, and Lagos is the hub not only for Nigeria, but for the entire West Africa, apart from South Africa.
Wow.
Because almost all goods, sometimes some goods will come into Lagos has to go through train and all other stuff before it gets to the other. So Lagos is very important for Nigeria. You have to get through the port of Lagos to Port Harcourt, Abuja, and all that international airports. For the world, Lagos is also the hub. Because if you're going to come to most West Africans, you need to come to Lagos. Then you can fly to Ghana easily, you can drive to Togo, you can drive to Benin, you can drive to all the neighboring West Africa easily. You don't have to go by flight.
It's good that you mentioned this because from my petroleum engineering background, I always remember that Lagos has been a place for companies like Shell, Chevron, ExxonMobil.
Exactly. So because it's a very focal point for the entire Africa in itself, and it's easily accessible. And my bank, if you also talk about it, we also have relationship. We have offices in Beijing, a representative office. We have representative in London. We have all over Africa as well.
Yeah, because the more partners you have, the more money you can keep flowing.
Exactly.
Yeah. Something that many people, when they see your background, they sometimes don't realize how difficult it is to achieve. But now that you mentioned about financial services, banking, you have a CFA.
Yes.
So tell us, what is a CFA and how important has been for you?
Oh, thank you very much.
Please, take your time to explain on this.
Yeah, CFA, of course. We during the learning, we do try to say is chartered financial analyst. So, and what we like to say is that we have a CFA charter. You understand? So I'm not a CFA. Nobody's a CFA, so it's a CFA charter. So it's one of the most difficult exams in the industry. People get to believe that. I was speaking luckily with someone yesterday, and they said, "Oh, what would be your concentration for the first semester here?" And I said, "Oh no, I'm looking at data, fintech, and entrepreneurship." And the person said, "You don't need to go to finance. You already have the highest qualification in finance, so there's nothing you need to prove again in finance." Which I kind of laugh and I look at my. So the point is, it's difficult. It's not easy, but it's not unattainable. If you are ready, it takes a lot of time and commitment for somebody to be able to get a CFA charter. And one of the most important part I find difficult in it is that it's not as segmented like many of the other courses. In the sense that if you take it, let's say we have 10 courses under CFA previously, they've added the new courses, the curriculum are constantly updated, but most often around 10. So you have like courses like economics, derivatives, ethics, finance, accounting. So, but now, most often you go to class, you go for your accounting exam, you come the next day, you go for your economics exam. Then the third day, you may say, maybe the same day, maybe different hour, you can come for your derivative exams, or you can come for your fixed income exam. So exam, so then you write and then you go. But for CFA, you write everything at the same time.
I see. It's like all the angles at the same time.
At the same time, and there's no sequence.
Okay.
So you don't know which course, so they can ask a question from the ethics side now, then the next question comes from final,
Wow.
and then the next one. So some people find it hard to juggle their mind around that courses.
Yeah. Only on that, and then that's the variety of the questions, and then the intensity of the questions. How intense they are.
Yeah, that's it. Now, because people have been, I think there have been a lot of discussions in the community around, oh, why CFA is doing this. I need to get it because people find it very difficult. And again, what will happen with the intensity of the question? The intensity of the question is hard because they don't pay emphasis on you just learning and regurgitating it. They are basically an application question,
Okay.
which sometimes requires that you learn from the people that and the industry. So you can't say, I want to learn the bond, and then the question is going to be just about present value and time value of money. No, they're going to ask you a question as if you are a full-time trader. So it's most of an application question. How do you do this? So they're not going to ask you a question on the theoretical side, and that is
The real intensity of the
when
question.
people find the disconnect between bringing the learning and the application together.
Now I see why a lot of people are complaining or saying about this exam, because it's not focused for the people who are just out of the school. It's focused for the people who are in the industry already.
Yes, there is also recommend. That's one of the recommendations that you need to have 4 years experience before you get the charter, even if you pass. So they will require that because some people are so good, maybe you pass the exams, you will not get a charter. So you need to have 4 years in the experience in the industry that is qualified before they give you the charter, because they don't want it that, and as much as they set the question in an application way, they still make sure that it's a requirement for you to practice, and that is where they emphasize. In fact, the level 3 is exceptionally difficult in that sense, in that it's mostly application question.
I see that, because there are 3 levels.
There are 3 levels.
Now I understand why a lot of people also always say that the first one is usually difficult because it tests it's like an entry, it's like a main barrier, like 25% acceptance or maybe less than 25%. But then the other problem is consistency, because then once you enter after the level 1, you need to finish it to level 3. So how many years it took you to go from level 1 to level 3?
Oh, thank you so much. I think a little bit of proud now, I can say.
Yeah.
You permit me. Yes, really, you're correct. There are 3 levels: level 1, level 2, and level 3. Level 1, the same topics in level 1 is what you have in level 2, is what you have in level 3.
Okay.
But the difficulties keep increasing.
Oh.
So, and that's so they're going to introduce, because you have courses like quantitative, finance, economics, and all that. So in level 1, like you said, it's an opportunity to weed out, to test your memory, the usual student level. How much of it can you take?
Yeah.
How much of the stress can you take? So the volumes are much, and are big, and they are tested rigorously. Speed and accuracy matters. So most people, maximum pass rate has been around 45 to 50%. So it's like you're sure that 50% of the candidates will fail all the time that you write. So the same for level 2 and level 3. So for me, I write within 3 years. So I was working, so which made it very difficult for me. So I started in 2017. I started in 2014. By 2017, I was through.
Oh, okay.
So I don't want to boast now, but it was like, okay, do level 1, pass once, do level 2, pass once, but it doesn't mean, CFA like to caution that because you pass one doesn't mean that the people that pass 3 times are less qualified. So
That's a good point.
So
That's a really good point. And for everybody who is watching right there and thinking to do the CFA exam, it's just about being consistent, right?
yes, I thank you so much. In place, I always say it, you just need to be consistent. Sometimes there are so many factors that will contribute to your success. What the kind of industry you are in now, the amount of time you are able to commit, That's so simply because you fail does not mean that you're not good or that you cannot be in the field. You just need to go back. But there's a minimum requirement of time, no matter how good you are, that you need to put in. So I just encourage you to put in more time.
That's right. Talking about financial services and talking about many options that are right there, which has been your main expertise, like your bread and butter? Is that equities? Is that bonds? Is that, let's say, something else?
Thank you again, Fabian. You are awesome. For me, going through the CFA exams, there's so many aspects of the curriculum, and each one of them they are important. If you want to specialize in finance and accounting, you have so many things to do there to learn, to apply, to use for a country. I mean, a company to help a company grow. You have so many valuable insights. But going through it, I find fixed income and the derivatives, which sometimes looks like the most complex part, and people don't like it. Generally, most candidates don't like that, so they kind of look at it. Oh, it's just 10%. I will just forget about it. It's going to take my time, but I love difficult things, so I specialize in the.
Now, when you say, okay, many people have the concept of fixed income, like something that it doesn't
Derivative.
change over time,
Yeah.
but derivatives, it's like a formula, it's something that changes over time.
Yeah, so it kept changing. So when you say derivatives, I don't want to go into the technicality now. It's the same thing, but it's with a lot of complex formula, derivation, and we also have people from MIT that also develop some of the concepts there in the CFA exams. So most people don't like that. That is where I specialize.
I see that now. That's very, very wholesome to see how from one single thing it goes to so many things that can be very heavy, very intense to analyze and also to practice because it's all about the practice, right?
Exactly. That's the point. It's all about the practice. If I can chip in on the practice, as at the time I joined my bank, we don't have a formalized derivative debt. So I was one of the people that started the derivative
So
debt.
you were one of the pioneers that
Yes,
started that.
yes. In fact, the entire industry, the market now, we have what we call Financial Market Dealers Association in Nigeria. No, not many banks have a complete derivative desk as at that time. I remember talking with one of the leaders in the industry, and he said, Kolawole, where you? I said, oh, I'm on the derivative desk. And he said, who has derivatives? I said, no, we have the derivatives. Though when he was talking to everybody, and he said, there's a young man there now that started derivatives. I encourage all the banks to also start at that one, and we did good.
That's really nice. That's really nice to hear that now more people are going into this and the movement is only getting bigger. Now, that was Nigeria. And then you got the opportunity to travel here in Asia and got the opportunity also to be exposed to something called the Alliance for Financial Inclusion. Can you tell us what happened there?
No, that's a long jump and a great one, Fabian. Seriously, coming to Asia alone is a very good opportunity, and I do say to all the time, being able to be at AISB is one of the most fantastic opportunities. You see, you get to meet people like Fabian also. You get to, you get to meet a lot of people from different continents and different countries, different culture. From being monocultural, you become an international person all at a go. And before I talk to Afi, we've had a lot of commitment. Our first action learning was actually in Thailand, combined with Malaysia. The second action learning was in Vietnam, and then the SAP is in Malaysia with a company called AFI, like you mentioned, so Alliance for Financial Inclusion, so which is also a global company pioneering the issue of financial inclusion, forcibly displaced people, internally displaced people. I work with the head of the policy and guidance analyst, helping countries to develop policy to implement in these countries.
Wow, that's very relevant because this is something that I've been hearing recently that it's not about the feelings but about the numbers, because in particularly if a country is able to be sustainable on its own, if they can be on their own feet, like can they provide money for their own, and sometimes the metrics are not there yet or they were not metrics to begin with, let alone how to redact policy that helps those growth going on.
Awesome. That's true. Just the way you said it, because that's it. Sometimes you have concepts and policies that you want to discuss with these countries. I mean, let me say the regulators of the countries, the stakeholders in those countries, but you can't just come up with something from your head. So you need data to back it up. And like you said, sometimes there are no data. So AFI also help in pioneering, in conducting what you call the analysis of what they have available, having surveys, helping them to get the data, and then be able to now find out what is in this data and communicate that to the stakeholders. That's
So during that time that you were watching the data, which was the most difficult part you saw? To verify the data was telling what they were trying to say, or was interpreting the data towards something else?
Oh, thank you very much. I think I had a very good time for this SAP. It was a very enlightening time and a very good time to relate with professionals in the field. So, I work with the Findex analysis. So, the Findex is a financial inclusion index released by the World Bank every 4 years. So, the first release was in 2011, then you have 2014, then 2017, then 2021. So the index for 2021 was just released July 9th of this year. So
wow.
so it's a World Bank data. AFI also partner with World Bank. We also have what we call Financial Action Task Force and a host of countries and organizations around the world. So this data is a big data in itself, not in the traditional big data, but it's a complex data. It has 1,232 variables, over 500 observations across that. So what we did is that, okay, this is the data, comprehensive data for most countries reported by the central bank. Let's look at it. What is in this data? What does the data say about the financial inclusions of countries over the past 4 years? Notwithstanding the effect of COVID-19, are more people coming that do not have access before? We did not have access to data, so we check that, and then also we look at what are the areas that are not so feasible. Is there anything new here that we are not seeing? And that's exactly what we find.
Wow, that's important because some things that are getting newer is the application of technology in financial services. And also in parallel, at least here in Asia, is the access of Islamic financial inclusion. Have you seen something like that going on?
Oh, thank you. Yeah. Like you said, it's now. So when you say Islamic financial inclusion, we like to look at it's just Islamic financial inclusion is one of the inclusion facets of
okay.
it, which truly it shows that it's positive. And the way we are releasing the publication soon, so it's not released yet. So
Okay.
I may not be able to talk more about the detail, but I'm going to give you an hint around why we say that.
This is an exclusive. This is a global exclusive, so don't miss it.
So I'm going to give you an hint. So when we look at the data, how we started is that we look at it, okay, there are two opposing effects. The first opposing effect is that you need a financial integrity.
Okay.
You need the integrity in the system. You need the trust in the system. You need the stakeholders to trust the system. They need to know that the security, why. Now, that's important because some of the Financial Action Task Force released what we call 11 effectiveness for countries to be able to rate them along that line. They have 23 technical competencies along that line. I'm not going into more detail. I just need you to say that those effectiveness is important. One of them is like anti-money laundering, financial terrorism, responsiveness to other international countries, and many other points. So, but the point here is that while the financial institutions are trying to implement that integrity, it may also be the reason why they are excluding a lot of people. So we look at it, the financial integrity on one side, then we look at the financial inclusion on the other side. So it looks like if you want more people to come in, then you shouldn't increase the barrier. Because the integrity, most countries interpret it as what do you call it, as an exclusion. What that, oh, where's your ID? Do you have this? Do you have international passport? Do you have driver license? You don't have it, you can't open account. You can't open account, you can't have access to financial services. You don't have access, you can't join Grab, you can't join a lot of things. You are practically excluded. In a bid to keep the integrity, it also may lead to excluding a lot of people.
Wow.
So is the Islamic finance you mentioned practically help to bridge the gap. That is what is one of the policies, 9 policies area at FVR that they are playing. So Islamic finance is helping to bring more people that would otherwise have been
Left out.
left out.
Fascinating. And now, by the time you were talking with this, it reminds me of system dynamics. Those reinforcing loops and balancing loops. Because in order to keep the balance, you need to at least have as many bridges as possible so you can touch as many people as possible.
Exactly. In fact, that's what I was trying to keep from you, that the result was not intuitive. We find that countries that have high financial integrity also have high financial inclusion. So you expect it to be a kind of contradictory, like I said before, but unfortunately it's complementary. So
Yeah, that's good.
the result is still different, which means that the countries, like, I don't want to mention the countries now, but I can mention the one that did very good, Malaysia and Thailand, and one other country. It's excellently well. Which means they have high financial integrity, and then they are also high on financial inclusion. And the countries that have the lower integrity, they also have the lower financial inclusion. So what we thought was contradictory, now the data shows is complementary.
That's a nice way to test hypothesis.
Exactly.
And came out with something totally new and stronger. Wow, that's really, really cool. Now, also during this summer, people have been also having the opportunity to go to some other places or try new different things. Right now, we have been learning some Chinese, but some people may not know that you are also good in football. So tell us your story about how you got involved in football.
Oh God, no, thank you very much. Yeah, and also time, as we at ASB here, we say we're smart and sharp, so it's all skills, so it's not all work. It's been very interesting coming to ASB. So before now, I love football. Sorry guys, I don't want you, if you're not a Man U fan, not to start what is happening to us. And before, I love football, but we also have a very good sports system here at the Asia School of Business. So when I got there, I was happy to see that I have fantastic guys that occasionally do organize futsal, indoor football, where you get to exercise your mind. So it's always a time to unwind after the grind of Monday to Saturday. So on Sundays, you will hang out with guys. So we just go play for 30 minutes to 1 hour. Then we hang out for food. And so it's been fantastic.
No, that's cool. That's really cool. And you usually play as a forward or as a midfielder because sometimes you rotate. You rotate. And sometimes also some midfielders take advantage of your position to give some crossovers to try to get some aerial attacks going on.
Oh God! So Fabian is one of the best keeper you can see in case you want to recruit him. So he's talking from action. So he's talking in action really. So I like to play forward, and then if it's not working, then I go to defense. So that's how I do. So if I discover, there are sometimes the guys at ASB here, they are exceptionally good. So if there are so many good people that want to play forward, then I stay at the defense. So I don't like midfield most often because it's crowded and all that. So, but I like to play extreme forward, left wing or right wing. I use both, and then if that is not okay, then I go to the defense just to try and stay with my keeper.
And also in the midfield is where you get hit. Let's be honest. If you are number 5, number 8, you can be good with the ball, but you need to wear shingles.
Exactly.
You need to wear shingles.
Okay.
That's something very funny, because there has been places that we have been playing that sometimes the environment is nice, and there are other places that for some reason it's like they are constructed like inside a tunnel or something.
Yeah, those sides they are very nice. But both sides are good. We have very fantastic modern places, like you said. And sometimes we go to those places that look like they are under the bridge, third world. They're cool. But you're gonna like it if you come to ASB.
That's right. Now, coming from Africa, now in Asia, there has been a third place we both have been, which is Cambridge, Massachusetts. Yeah. What memories can you bring to this conversation about Boston?
Thank you very much. Once again, I'm going to be thanking you a lot because these are vital questions and it's good. So Boston was awesome, and again, like I don't know who I was watching this, but I'm trying to say that this is why we say Asia School of Business is the next frontier for business school. So if you try to imagine it that within a space of August and April, August last year and April, you have had experiences, professional interactions in 4 different countries. So remember, I mentioned the first action learning, Thailand, Malaysia, companies across there. They have their challenges. Then the second action learning was in Vietnam for the very companies that don't want to mention. Opportunity to relate with the good banks and there, and then from there to Boston to learn great things from Boston's some of the best courses in the world that it's only available at Massachusetts Institute of Technology, and the environment is marvelous. So, you get to meet a lot of wonderful people with good IQ and EQ, looking forward to connect with you, opportunity to network, fantastic, both in and outside the campus. Chinatown was my favorite place. Then you move around there, then you have a lot of movie centers. Things are just so wonderful. It was a great experience.
Yeah, I can also recall that that time was very nice because it was in April. And if you've been living in the Northeast, not New York, but a little above, like Rhode Island, Connecticut, Massachusetts, April is better than to be in February because there is no snow. But it's still chill, it's still cold, right? And some of our friends were a little under the weather with those chilly mornings. And I need to ask you this because from that part of the world and also here it's always hot. And how did you cope with the cold weather? How did you prepare for that? I mean, let's be honest. I come also from a hot weather environment, and sometimes my first time doing that, I didn't know how to cope with the cold weather. How did you do it?
Oh, thank you. You see, that's it. It's for me. It was in 2 ways because I don't want to talk about Nigeria now, but I prepared. Oh, our seniors went when it was really really cold. There was snows and all that, but we were lucky. It was not that cold. So one of the first things you have to prepare for is you get your jacket ready, bought a lot of sweatshirts, and then you have to wear, you see, 4 layers or 5 layers to be able to cope. So I look bigger than my size when I was in Boston because no matter what, like he said, you will feel the cold. The cold is, but it was also beautiful. I just wanted to be on the street. You are able to go everywhere and walk everywhere. At least from 1 p.m. to 4 p.m. Very good, but it was cold. So what we do, get your hot coffee in the morning, wear multiple layers, and then move ahead. Coming from Nigeria, I had experience because where I stay was also cold. It's called Plateau State.
Okay.
So that's why it wasn't at the extreme cold for me as a person. So because Plateau State sometimes is also close to that sub-zero as around that time.
Wow.
So it's an exceptional state in Nigeria. Most states in Nigeria are hot. Lagos is a mix, but if you get to Abuja, it's hot. But when you get to the plateau, it's like London, Nigeria. So, and that's where I resided before I came. So I'm used to cold weather, but not as cold as
Okay, so that was your training. Yeah, and that's true. Where the layers? Like, look, you don't have to pay 400, 500 US dollars for a nice coat that you maybe gonna use somewhere then or maybe in an airport. Just be practical. And if you have to do like a sweaters or the scarves or the beanies, just be practical. Because then the same things you're gonna be like putting out on the bag and then going out when you have to go. Something that I remember was the wind. The wind was a little relentless, especially in the weekends.
now the wind was hot. Yeah, I find it hard for people like a colleague that was always riding the bike. You can feel the wind on your face, like it's going to cut through your skin. So you will see find people able to jog and run very early in the morning. So you're going to feel the impact of the wind when you start running. If you just walking, you're going to be hearing it. But if you want to feel the wind, just try to pick a jog, jog a little bit, then you're going to see the wind was harsh.
That's true. Okay, now a little confession because people remember when I was going out running in the cold. So I used to run uh, marathons. Those are in January in Houston, and that's a cold weather. In order to do that, you prepare running in the cold weather. So when I was in Boston, it was like, well, actually, technically, it was Cambridge. It was nice to run in the cold weather because with the short and the shirt, in less than 3 minutes, I heated up enough. And then the problem was the wind. When the wind hits you, it's like not only your temperature lowers, but also your speed lowers.
Exactly.
And that's a huge issue because then you have like a reinforcing loop, talking about system dynamics once again. And it's like you are going to consume more energy. So you better structure your route so that you finish on time and don't get sick if you want to keep doing this.
That's true.
And I remember that even I got a video, maybe we can post it right here or somewhere, that is acceptable, but it shows part of the streets and everything. And I was also surprised to see like the community itself was safe. Everything was safe in MIT.
Yes. It's not, yeah, to be candid, that it was a very good environment. Very good environment. It was safe. And it's not only within the campus, like I said. I got the opportunity to travel around with the train. I also took the train to New York. I go to first Philadelphia. You understand? So, and then also within the town, a lot of spaces. The New York, the park, the Central Park, everywhere. You can see people there any time of the day. Sometimes I just try to check what's the livelihood like in the evening around 1 a.m. You still find very nice people ready to help you. So it was a safe environment.
That's true. That's really true. Now, from these three places, which has been the main difference? I mean, the small differences that you can compare these two areas, like in US and Nigeria, to here in Malaysia. Which has been the little differences?
Oh, thank you so much for tying it together that way. Now, when here in Asia, I'm a little biased. I think if you give me, no, I don't want to say this now. I don't know when I apply, I will get it. I wanted to say if you give me 90% of the salary in New York, I'm going to stay in Malaysia. So Malaysia is beautiful. It's also at least developed cities in its own self. You're going to be able to live relatively well, like you are in New York. You can take a train, you can move around, you can go within the cities. You have all the amenities that New York, Manhattan, or Boston will provide you, but with a lower cost. New York and Boston can be costly, even when you make thousands of dollars here. So if you make like 80 to 90% of that, here you're going to have a higher standard of living, so to say. That's what I say. So I have to say you should come to Malaysia and come and enjoy.
Yes, this is something that is not very well discussed. And we are talking to you right there, people who are preferring to say, yeah, we are in financial services in New York, Manhattan. Hey, congratulations on paying that $5,000 per month. I'm not sure how big is that apartment. But hey, it's your choice. You choose that, so we congratulate you on that. And it's true, like, it's not because you are making money and then all of a sudden you are burning money. It's suppose that you are making money, so your money makes more money.
Exactly. And you save money. So on a pari passu basis, if you compare, if you get the same nature of job, yeah, you're going to have more career development, yeah, and you're going to save money so that your money can make more money for you. And in a very how do I call it, sustainable way and sustainable environment. Yeah. So because it can be harsh to make ends meet.
Oh yes, this is something also we discussed with Norris on our episode 3 about wealth generation, private wealth generation, intergenerational wealth generation. You can check on YouTube people saying, oh yeah, I am rich. And other people will say, yeah, you can be rich, but I am wealthy. Because like, you can be rich now, but no one guarantees you're going to have the same wealth in the future. Whereas the wealthy, they know how to dosify the richness, not for them, but for the ones after them.
Exactly.
And going back to financial services, we can remember back in the centuries ago the fights that Napoleon Bonaparte and one of the Rothschilds, they were fighting on wars, actual wars. But now they are still wealthy because they are right now on the private financial services as a hedge fund managers. Now their grandsons or the kids or the grandsons are also fighting, but financial wars.
That's it.
So it's like, okay, we see the difference between being rich and being wealthy. And it's like, okay, sometimes that financial literature is really hard to get.
Yes, and you're very correct, and that's the difference. I was with a Grab. For those who may not know, Grab is another form. It's Uber, usually, yeah. And I was able to talk to the guy that, okay, go and get the Kiyosaki book that talks about the cash flow, simple management of the cash flow, your personal cash flow. Reach that, for that. I know you've heard about it. That's where it begins from. So you get to know that. So the difference between the being rich and wealthy is very clear. It's about the financial management, financial planning. Then you talk about how do you plan intergenerational wealth for not only you, but for the generations to come. And then the transfer of wealth, it can be important. Like you said, I was thinking of taxation. Immediately you were talking about that. If you're not careful, you work so hard to save a lot, but it's only like 40% that will be transferred to the next generation around you if you're not careful with good financial planning. So if you have any of that, you need to come and talk to us so that they help you to plan.
Yeah, and that's something that we realized about the tax brackets. People in New York, they have to pay a lot of the it's a state income tax, and you saw a lot of financial services that went from New York State to Florida State. But then there is something very singular that happens here in Asia, and I can disclose with you something that we saw recently in our little caravan south on the border. What we saw in Singapore was that the tax brackets are not as high.
Yeah.
So taxes are small, but you have to be there. Like we realized it talking with some alumni and some people there, like the remote work can only go so far because you are supposed to pay taxes following the 181 rule, which is a minimum of 8 to actually be there in order to pay the corresponding taxes.
Okay.
Because what has been going on is some people say, yeah, I work in Singapore, and then they are living in Bali or Bangkok, and then it's like, okay, where is your home? And this is something else we saw. Rents are going high, too high, and it's like, for people who are living there, sometimes they have to be very reasonable with their cash, because they can only pay so much rent if they want to be nearby certain areas, or they can be like excluded and going towards other places just to still be benefits of that particular bracket.
And that's the truth. And it's almost a global phenomenon. That every, you see United States, even you see other countries like Malaysia also, they're trying to copy that and put it in practice.
Yeah.
But we see how it develops.
That's right. And right now, being 2022 and the advent of remote work, it's like it can only go as long as possible or as long as you can justify with taxes, because productivity is one thing, and people will love to do productivity. Okay, let's go Chinese one moment. Okay, let me apply some Chinese philosophy by Deng Xiaoping. He mentioned that it doesn't matter what is the color of the cat, if it's white or black, as long as the cat hunts mice. So it's about performance. So if you are good in performing either in office or work from home, do it.
Exactly.
That's the best choice.
Yes.
When it comes to taxes, talk with your financial analyst or talk with your personal choice, talk with your employer, because hey,
Awesome.
which are your choices? Let's be honest.
I'll take the best one for you.
Because humans don't live long enough. Sometimes we don't even live long enough to answer questions like, how can I put stuff for my kids or the grandkids if you don't dedicate time enough? So plan accordingly.
I think that's a good advice. That's a good advice.
Yeah.
So no time is too early or long. The right time is now.
Now, talking about things that are now, and because you have been in other places, which is a recipe of life that you can suggest?
For when you say recipe now, you're taking my mind back to Manechia nasi goreng. But yes, I'm going to try. I'm not a philosopher, but I think you should live and don't try to control everything. Be true to yourself. That's the recipe I'm going to say. Live, don't try to control everything, and be true to yourself. Because most often, you can't see all the dynamics, like we like to say it in the system dynamics, the feedback loops into each of the actions that you want to take. So when you overthink it, you overanalyze it, you are not, because of the, let me say, the lack of the brain capacity, what our brain can see at a time, you are not able to see the effect. But if you stay true to yourself, you will find your path. That's what I'm saying.
That's very important. Talking about paths that you choose in life, uh, people want to know how did you came out with that University of Chile jersey. Sometimes when we play football, we realize that you have that Chile. I mean, it's not the national jersey of Chile, but it's the Universidad de Chile, which is a different club. So how did you came out to that jersey?
That's exactly, in fact, I don't know how you do this, man. That's exactly what I'm saying. You see, okay, in August, I was supposed to fly to Malaysia, but unfortunately, because of visa issues and some things, I couldn't make it. So I had to start online and all that. So most of the classes started very late at night for me, 2 a.m. Nigeria time, constantly for like 3 or 4 months. So the guys know that I love football and all that. So one of these days, just before I flew to Malaysia, so I said, okay, I need to take a break. Let me just go out and play. Then the guy said, oh no, boss, we know you like football. And then you've been talking about this country play. I have this jersey for you from Chile. I said, you mean it? Let me see the jersey. Okay, I'm going to buy it. And I say, oh, you know I like it. How do you know I like it? He said, no, I know you've been buying Man U, but you mentioned this before. I said, oh, okay. I just talk about them in person. I never knew I'm going to come to Malaysia and meet guys from Chile that also like you, that even recognized the jersey in the first place. So I was just happy when we went to play football and I wear the jersey, and Eduardo said, where do you get this jersey from? And then Fabian came, where do you get the jersey from? Sometimes you can't link all the actions together, just be yourself.
Universidad de Chile was, and it still is, one of the most relevant football clubs in Chile. And they became Sudamerica champions, not Libertadores champions. It's a different tournament. It's like a UEFA Champions League, and then you have the UEFA Cup. The Universidad de Chile was a UEFA Cup champion back in 2011, around that time. And they were very well known for a system of play that was copied later for some national teams. So that may came across since then in other places because, hey, the way they were playing.
Exactly. So they were popular, but we don't, usually we follow the English football. It's only occasionally you look at the other football, but they are very popular and most liked by. So you find their jersey very common in my place. So in fact, people like it and all that. So I was happy. I never know that I'm going to meet people from the place.
Yeah, imagine that. People from Chile go to Nigeria and you will see you have fans there.
I'm telling you, you have fans, including me.
Now, you mentioned that about the Premier League, this club, like 2 times right now. What is Manchester United for you?
You see, I'm sorry, Man U fans. It is what it is, really. But we don't have anywhere to go. We are Man U fan for forever since I was in undergraduate level. For now, we love Ronaldo, so I'm one of the die-hard fans of Ronaldo. So there's nothing we can do about it. But for now, we feel like there's a disconnect in the team. You understand, either how the team is playing or what some people in the rumor or area feels that they are not playing well with Ronaldo or something. But we hope for the best, so that we don't want to be like Everton or something. We want to come back to Champions League and all that. But it's sad now. I don't want to cry.
Yeah. This is something that we discussed also with Oroluga weeks ago, like which has been the things that changed so much, because in less than 10 years it's a different narrative.
Yes, it looks like something is particularly missing. I know guys who have talked a lot about this. Man, you see as fantastic players, I believe, world-class players. But in my opinion, they need to play more together. Football is a team game, just like MBA at Asia School of Business. It's a team game, so it's not individual game. So that coordination is much more needed. Sometimes you see the team performing, but they can't just bring it home to score the points, and that's where things are. And like I said, it's about performance eventually. So even though you played well, if you don't get the goals, then you did not play.
Yeah, especially right now in this particular season, because now there have been two matches, and the next one is going to be Liverpool as we speak. Maybe by the time this episode releases, maybe we will know what happened. But it's supposed to be a battle for the championship, and it's not supposed to be a battle to stay in the Premier League. Like
It's amazing.
it's really surprising how things can change so quickly. Like, this reminds me of what happened in South America with River Plate. I don't want to sound prophetic, but for a team like River Plate, who is on the par with Boca Juniors, arguably can be sometimes, they are wealthy teams. We usually with the best players of the region, if not the world. River Plate back in 2011 was relegated.
Wow.
And it was surprising. What happened? It was not the team or it was the system, but then there was a famous quote by Oscar Ruggeri that mentioned, it is really hard to become champion, but for a team like River Plate, who usually has the best talent, it's even harder to be relegated because you're supposed to have the talent.
Exactly.
So how do you do it? And maybe the lessons learned was start trimming and start executing the plans. Like if you have some prima donnas, just put them on the bench, but do rotations, keep the system, and also the management has to be.
You said it all.
And after what happens for match day 4 or 5 or 6, also the fans has to be calm because.
No, you've said it all. You said it all. But I want to say I'm not expecting us to be relegated now. But well, like you said, we shouldn't be fighting. I'm sad now. I don't want to talk about it.
Yeah, and we understand that. We understand that. I mean, like, imagine on our previous episode, Oroluwa was with his heart open to love again. I don't know how he will feel.
We don't know what's happening. This is not what we expected. It's just so sad. Brentford and we see what will happen. But I'm sure we're going to be in the game, and anything until the last game, anything can still happen. Yeah.
Oh yes, that's right. Anything can still happen. Like, if you remember what happened with Agüero and Manchester City, like that was maybe the closest United was to become champion again, right?
Yes. So we put in a good fight. The boys will put in a good fight. And we'll be good.
Oh yeah, that's true. Now, World Cup is coming for Qatar in 2022.
Yeah.
What happened with Nigeria?
Why are you like this?
I mean, from
we're doing so well, guys. We're doing so well.
I mean, from South America, we always saw, hey, Nigeria is a powerhouse. It's like, if you have a friendly with Nigeria, do it because, hey, those people play.
Yeah.
And it's like, right now, Ecuador is on the World Cup. And, okay, let's do a friendly with Nigeria and with Cabo Verde because now we're going to be facing Senegal in the first group.
Okay.
But it's like, okay, the exposure of Latin American countries to African countries doesn't happen very often.
Yes, that's true. So, if to start from the question, we don't know what happened. I think the boys, they started very good when they are playing the qualifiers for the World Cup, Nigeria. But sometimes, maybe that's why they say again, sometimes anything can. So they lost it away, and it was unbelievable that we are not part of the Qatar. It's so sad. But they were supposed to be there. But unfortunately, they lost the last 2 games. And
there should be more, I would say, slots for Africa to enter into the World Cup. Because this is something that is not discussed. Let's be honest. In South America, you have 10 teams, but you always have Brazil, Argentina, and then you have Uruguay. But because there are 10 teams, In Africa, they are like 50, right?
56 countries.
56 countries for only 5 slots.
Yes. So that's another point. I'm happy you share the sentiment with us. It's something people have been talking about all the time. Why that? Because this is more. The number of countries are so many that you need more slots for them to.
Now, something that happened in Africa for years. Have you realized that all of them were Puma? All the national teams were Puma? Oh, look at that, you have Puma!
Yeah.
Okay, so what is going on with Puma there?
We love Puma. It's the standard. Yes, if my bag is also Puma. Yeah,
Oh no, look at that. This episode has been brought you by Puma,
I'm telling you.
the unofficial sponsor of the podcast. I cannot believe it.
Even my foot shoe is Puma.
Okay, so what is
everything-
going on with Puma? When Puma entered?
It's just, you love some things, you love them. You love a brand, you love them. They were there for us when we were winning Tunisia '94 and all, and many other things. So we love them. We love the brand. I'm
okay.
happy to. If when you love something, you can talk passionately about it. So if I'm to head Puma country in Nigeria, head of country, man, it's going to be something fantastic, man.
Wow.
Because the people are in love with the brand already, so it's not going to be hard to sell.
I see that now. Yeah, it's like, I remember that team from 1994 and they were wearing Puma.
Yeah.
And it's like, yeah, let's do that. There was a small affair with Nike in 2002, but that was very, very brief.
Yeah. I know. Nike is also good, but I think Nike is pricey. I don't want to talk loud so that they cannot hear. So because this is another point I want to speak to the international companies. So sometimes I'm a fan of Nike in most ways, and I wear Nike like you are now. So the point is when they need to find more ways to get this product to the developing countries in a more sustainable way.
It's like brand inclusivity.
Yeah, awesome. That is the same way we are talking about inclusive financial integrity, we should talk about brand inclusivity because nobody should be left behind, whether clothing, shoe, or the brand.
I'm glad you are on the same page on this because it's really hard to practice football with good equipment because it's the good equipment that allows you to prevent you from injury. Like injuries happen, and if you don't have a good shingle or a good shoe or a good glove, you can get injured. The same happens when you are running. People who are running here for the marathon or training, they need good shoes.
Thank you.
And those shoes are expensive, let's be honest. Like the famous Nike Vaporfly is around $200 US, or the Adidas Ultra Boost is around $200. And then you have the pro versions, okay, for pros, but for the average people, they are usually priced out. Exactly. And what they got is like, okay, let me train with something that is not as good, and if they are not disciplined enough, but thing happens, they get injured. It's like the brands should be more inclusive, not only for the name to show an economic version, but also something that is good. ASICS, I have to say, ASICS for running, they have the Gel Nimbus line. It's good. Like the quality is at least competitive with Adidas Ultra Boost. Let's say Gel Nimbus is $120, and then Adidas Ultra Boost is $180, $190. But you can get more for your buck, unless you go fancy. But that's the point. It's not supposed to be fancy.
You see, I also like to stress on the inclusion side a little more for the brands, especially for the future talent. Like you said, to prevent injuries, to make sure it is accessible to a lot of people. At least for the children from 18 and above, the price should be different. So in New York, that price can't be the same one in Malaysia, of course. It shouldn't be the same price in Nigeria, of course. Let's not talk of Togo or all other less developed even countries where children have talent and they should have access to this to develop their talent early enough to be able to know without injury or something. Because if you play with Puma, of course, it's different than when you have the right equipment, you can make your point. So the inclusion should, at least, these are children, anybody below 15, 10, 12, so their equipment should be subsidized.
Yeah, because then once that is solved, then we can say, stop making excuses and execute.
Exactly.
At that point, now you can say that. And still, the grind, the discipline, you never forget. The journey, you never forget. Because it's there. And yeah, most has to be done working on those brand inclusivity.
Well, I'm happy to mention that. I think that's another area we've not, because I'm going to look at, we are talking of inclusion, we are talking of financial inclusion, bringing people to this now. I think it's also part of this. So if we have brands, the financial services are able to keep, to give access, and maybe the brands can also support in a very sustainable way. They can support these particular people to come in, and then it's also a way of identifying the people, because if you're going to get a shoe or a trainer or a shirt or a jersey across, obviously you are giving it to a human being, and that will also help to identify.
That's right. That's right. Now, we discussed so many things, and this looks like another business case for system dynamics, because we talked about financial inclusion now, brand sport inclusions, and the like of it. A lot of people, maybe there are going to be some young Kolawoles right there watching this. I need to ask you, what piece of advice will you give to your younger self?
That's a difficult question, but again, I would like to repeat and say this: be true to yourself, work hard, work smart, and just be dedicated, be committed to whatever you are doing. The principle has always been, whatever you find to do now, do it extremely well. Though because we are human, you tend to think, oh, where are you going to be in the future? And because most people think too much about the future, they cannot stay in the present alone to learn, to enjoy, and develop in the present. But I want to tell you, even on the system dynamics basis, to bring in all the feedback, look, all the stock, everything, it's difficult. So you are not supposed to do that. Use this present well, then it will connect with the past correctly, and then you will map a good future for yourself. Just be in the present. You make use of it. Make the best of it.
I cannot find a better way to conclude the episode, Kolawole. How people can find you? Do you have Instagram? Do you have LinkedIn? How can people find you and maybe chat a little more later?
Oh, thank you very much. I think you're going to find I'm on LinkedIn, I'm on Instagram, I'm on Twitter. Now I have a very high presence on Facebook because finance most often. So you can find my LinkedIn detail, the Instagram and the Twitter detail on this episode. And we can connect.
Thank you very much, Kolawole. It was been a pleasure.
Thank you so much, Fabian, for this opportunity.
For the people who are out there, please stay safe and see you when I see you.